I'm 82 years old, and most days now, I sit in this chair by the window and try to understand how 62 years can disappear without making much noise. That number sounds dramatic when I say it out loud. 62 years. But it didn't feel dramatic while it was happening. It felt ordinary. It felt like Tuesday turning into Wednesday. Like putting things off because they could wait. I don't wake up crying. I don't scream into the dark. It's quieter than that. It's more like a steady weight in my chest. The kind you forget is there until you try to stand up too fast. Time feels different now. It's not rushing anymore. It's almost polite. It moves slowly, like it's giving me space to look back. And I do. Constantly. I look back because there's nowhere else to go. When I was younger, I thought wasting a life meant something obvious. Drugs, prison, big public failures. I didn't do any of that. I worked, I showed up, I paid my bills. I stayed out of trouble. That's part of what makes this harder to explain. I didn't destroy my life. I just never fully lived it. In my 20s, I told myself I was being responsible. I took the job that paid better, not the one that interested me. I said I'd do the meaningful things later, when things were more stable. Later became my favorite word. Later I'd travel. Later I'd write the things I thought about at night. Later I'd spend more time with the people I loved instead of assuming they'd always be there. I wasn't lazy. That's important to say. I was busy, productive, reliable. People trusted me. They still do, what's left of them. They'd say things like, "He's a good man. He works hard." No one ever said, "He seems alive." I got married in my early 30s. She was kind, patient. She laughed easily. I loved that about her. I also took it for granted. I thought love was something that stayed put once you had it, like furniture. I didn't realize it needed attention, presence, warmth. I was always tired, always thinking about tomorrow. When she talked, I listened just enough to answer, not enough to really hear. I don't think she left because I was cruel. I think she left because she was lonely while sitting right next to me. When the marriage ended, I told myself it was unfortunate but necessary. I said things like, "These things happen." I said it calmly, like a man explaining the weather. What I didn't say was that I felt hollow. Not broken, hollow. In my 40s, I doubled down. Work became my excuse for everything. If I felt empty, at least I was useful. If I felt lonely, at least I was needed. I told myself I was building something, but I never stopped to ask what it was for. Friends faded quietly during those years. No big fights, just unanswered calls, postponed dinners, birthdays I meant to acknowledge and didn't. I assumed we'd reconnect eventually. That word again. Eventually. My parents aged faster than I noticed. One day my father's hands were shaking when he poured his coffee. I pretended not to see it. I didn't want to think about what it meant. When my mother started repeating stories, I smiled and let her. I didn't sit down with her and ask about the things she hadn't told me yet. I thought there was time. There wasn't. Their deaths didn't feel shocking. They felt administrative. Hospital rooms, paperwork, quiet car rides home. I grieved, of course, but underneath the grief was something colder. Regret that had no direction. You can't apologize to someone who's gone. In my 50s, my body started reminding me that I wasn't in charge. My knees complained. My back argued. My energy shrank. I told myself that was normal, that life naturally narrows. What I didn't admit was that my life had already been narrow for decades. I had money by then, not wealth but comfort, and nothing in particular to do with it. I took a few trips. I stood in beautiful places, and I felt like a visitor in my own life, watching someone else's vacation. The moments passed through me instead of landing. The turning point came quietly. They always do. A doctor sat across from me and used careful words. Nothing dramatic. Just facts. I remember thinking, not "I'm afraid," but I waited too long. Not too long for treatment, too long for everything else. That night I went home and sat on the edge of my bed and tried to remember when I'd last felt deeply involved in my own life. Not busy, involved. I couldn't find the moment. Since then, the days have slowed. There's a lot of silence in old age. People don't talk about that enough. The phone doesn't ring unless someone needs something. The world keeps going, efficiently, without asking your opinion. I spend a lot of time with memories now. Not the big ones. The small, almost invisible ones. The afternoon I stayed late at work instead of going to a friend's housewarming. The evening I nodded while my wife talked, already thinking about emails. The Sunday I told my mother I'd call back and didn't. None of those moments felt important at the time. That's how it happens. You don't waste a life all at once. You waste it in teaspoons. There are things that can't be fixed now. Conversations that will never happen. Apologies with no recipient. I can't go back and choose differently. I can only see clearly what I was blind to then. I thought time was something I owned. It turns out it was something I was borrowing and I didn't read the terms. If you're listening to this and you're younger, I don't have advice. I don't believe in telling people how to live. I'll just tell you what surprised me.